Hello and welcome to Please Don't Send Me Into Outer Space, the podcast intent on exploring all that science fiction and fantasy has to offer, one random movie at a time. My name is Joel.
My name is Aaron.
My name is Sarah.
If travel is searching and home what's been found, I'm not stopping.
The movie this week was Jungle Book. Not The Jungle Book, not a Jungle Book story, not Jungle Planet, like we proposed when we were watching this movie. Jungle Book from 1942, directed by Zoltan Korda. That's an awesome name. Anyways, starring Sabu, Joseph Kalia? We didn't decide how to pronounce it.
Kalia, maybe? I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah.
John Qualin, Frank Puglia, Rosemary DeCamp, Patricia O'Rourke, and Ralph Bird. I don't know any of these people. I think that makes me a really bad movie fan. But, you know, the guy who plays Mowgli in the movie is an actor named Sabu. And I love him. I love his portrayal. I love the way he acts. And I've only seen him in this and in Black Narcissus. But each time it's like this guy is the scene stealer. And he died at age 39 of a heart attack. It's so terrible.
Wow.
So terrible. Anyways, we're taking it into a dark place already because that's what I love to do. So?
Well, I was just going to mention that this is a first for me as well, Joel. I've never seen in any other film by Sabu, I believe.
I was going to say, you've been on every other podcast. What do you mean this is the first? Oh, no. Sabu. S-A-B-U.
Sabu. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie though. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Randomizer, for, picking an interesting one for us.
Yeah, our first fantasy movie.
Yeah.
It was cool. That was a great choice. Like I said at the end of last podcast, I had already seen this before, but it was such a treat just to watch it again. I don't know. We're going to talk about it. What makes this movie so special?
Yeah.
Because I do feel it's different than a bunch of movies from the 40s that I've watched before or tried to watch before, depending on the situation. But we're getting ahead.
Well, okay. If I had never seen a Jungle Book rendition before, how would I describe this movie? Joel? Mister?
The story of the Jungle Book is about a Indian boy who is lost in the woods somehow, abandoned, or he wanders off at something happens.
Tragedy strikes.
He ends up being that notorious child raised by wolves that everyone has heard about. Even before you know what the Jungle Book is, you've probably heard of somebody being raised by wolves, whether it's your little sister or Sabu himself. And the funny thing about that story is I think most people, when it comes to movies, are familiar with the Disney story.
Yeah.
Which is that we see him living in the jungle, having his adventures. There's talking animals because he can communicate with the animals.
Yeah.
Which, it makes it makes a little sense. But it doesn't really, if you overanalyze it. The reason I bring up the Disney movie is that this is one of a couple of movies that I've seen that doesn't show you the in-between when he was abandoned and when he rediscovers the man village. This movie takes place basically after he rediscovers man and tries to fit back in. And what happens there? And I like that story a lot. I like the Disney movie a lot.
Yeah.
But I really like this, he can't fit in with these people because he is essentially an animal in a man's body. Kind of like a few of my relatives. What do you say?
I really liked it, but I wasn't familiar with this telling of the Jungle Book. I probably didn't even know that this movie existed until we picked it. But I thought it was a lot of fun. And there's definitely some silliness, but there's some really good stuff there too. It's kind of insane to me that they even attempted to make this into a movie at that point in time, 1942?
1942.
Yeah, I just thinking about what they were going to have to attempt to communicate through the animals and him and through just, practical effects and special effects. I just thought, this is crazy that they even tried to do it.
Wow.
And it was still a really entertaining movie.
Absolutely.
Even though they didn't have much, And I just tried not to think about the animals in real life, because back then, they didn't have any laws about treating animals in a good way when they were making a movie. There was this part where we saw, some bear cubs, and I was just thinking, oh god, I hope somebody didn't kill their mother and then just take them to make this movie. But,
it's very troubling to think of a bunch of different stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
In the time period.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to put that to the side because I am an avid animal lover, and every time the Bagheera would come on screen, I would just think, oh my god, what a gorgeous cat, every time. I just was awestruck by the animals that were in it, too. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I was telling Joel earlier that it seemed like... It was imagine if someone was going to try to make Life of Pi, in 1940, what that would have looked like compared to what we're able to do now. It's just kind of crazy and very entertaining. Very entertaining.
Yeah, I wonder if they would have done Tiger Man in a tiger suit for a bunch of that stuff, because, that's all him being stuck in a very small space with that tiger. And here... when they thought that the animal was going to be too dangerous, they had, a projected screen. Like when the panther was up in the tree and Mowgli was supposed to be interacting with him, it was obviously a projected screen. And that's not putting down the movie because of that, because these are the hurdles that they had to jump over and how they got over them. It's not the possibility of the animals being mistreated, which most definitely happened. In the 40s, animals didn't have rights.
Yeah.
Is one of a couple of things that could be troubling about this movie. Besides that, I'm thinking there was a single Indian person in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely... Which, I don't know, that may have been an achievement for the time, to have that actor in this role. I've seen movies from the 50s where there isn't a person represented that's Native American in a movie that's supposed to have Native Americans in it.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe... I do think he was an excellent actor.
Yeah.
Very communicative with his face, with his facial features and his eyes. It almost seems like maybe he did silent movies before and was expressive with his face in a way that most people aren't. Most actors don't have the skill set.
Yeah, good call.
He kept a almost childlike wonder of everything around him.
Yeah, true.
That was really entertaining, and it showed just how much his character really appreciated the animals, in all his scenes. It was really well done. Yeah, I have to agree with you. I thought that was so much fun. And the practical effects in this film are so much fun too. I really enjoyed all the snakes.
Oh my
Every
gosh.
snake in this film
was so much fun.
Was amazing.
Yeah.
Man, they had a bunch of cats. They had a bunch of bears, but I guess nobody wanted to mess with the snakes because they were all animatronic, or not even that. They were just puppets. There's a huge boa, Ka. People would be familiar with that from the Disney movie, who he talks to, and of course they didn't get a gigantic boa. This thing was the size of the anaconda from the movie Anaconda, and since Ice Cube was there or not there. There was no way we could defeat that if that had happened to be the enemy. Luckily, it was Shere Khan. And then there's the viper that's in the treasure room, which is that is
awesome.
just amazing.
That scene
It was so cool.
blew my mind.
I loved it. It was like HR Puffin stuff, like before HR Puffin stuff even like was an idea. You know, that might have even inspired the dudes that did the HR Puffin stuff. You know,
Yeah.
that'd have been so cool.
I feel like we need to all read the book just so we can be like, hey, that part's actually in there.
Yeah, I agree with you. It'd actually be kind of fun to read the book.
I imagine if he's able to communicate with the animals in the book, that there might be some kind of a...
References to parcel tongue. Nothing else.
No, you would think we're missing something in this movie. Because you don't hear that much from the actual animals. Mm-hmm. I mean, is there a stretch of time... That's what I'm wondering. If in the book there's a stretch of time where he's just hanging out with the animals and there's communication happening between them that you don't hear about in this story.
Yeah, probably.
The only Jungle Book rendition I've ever read was a DC Comics Elseworld, where Kal-El crash landed in the jungle and was raised by wolves as Mowgli. So he was like Super Mowgli.
That sounds awesome.
It's actually a really good read.
Yeah.
One of the few of the Elseworld books I really loved. Well, that's a lie. I loved all of them. But yeah. That was also a fun read. But most of the time, when Superman was interacting with all the animals in that story, it was all like narration blocks. Like he would just stare at it, and there'd be like a bunch of like dialogue going on in there.
Yeah.
You're just like, how is he emoting this to them? I didn't really grasp it even in the comic as well. So
yeah, it almost. I wonder if it's like a clairvoyance or something. Like he understood that the tiger meant this or what.
That's what puts this movie firmly into the fantasy realm, because the idea that a child could be left in the jungle and survive is kind of not realistic, but it's also not like completely far-fetched. I mean,
sure.
You see animals adopting other animals' children all the time, and that doesn't seem that crazy. Now, being able to communicate with the animal as you get older, I mean, we don't have the vocal capacity to do that. Although I talk to the cats all the time, I think they just ignore me.
Yeah, from the beginning of the story, I see they sort of set up that Mowgli was left in the jungle, raised by wolves.
He's got that adorable part with the baby and the wolf cubs.
Yeah. Were those real wolves?
I have no idea.
I couldn't tell if they were just huskies or something.
I couldn't tell either.
Yeah.
Let's hop in the time machine and go ask
coyotes. Yeah.
Wolves, those are too dangerous. Get me those coyotes.
But then it like jumps way ahead to when he goes to the man village, and I kind of hated that part.
You hated all
in the man with the people, all the stuff with the people.
I found the comedy bits to be funny. When either he was saying like, "This is weird. Why do you guys do that?" And they're like, "Well, obviously you need to do this," or the parts where. The main bad guy is like a hunter guy, and he also is in cahoots with this guy who's kind of a priest, and this other guy who's kind of he is a barber. I don't even know why he's got it. Like, of course the barber. Everybody knows.
Oh yeah, barber. That barber scene that was totally something straight out of India from that time. Mm-hmm. It was like the Three Stooges in in a barber shop in America.
It's just scheming and scheming. Yeah.
I like it. But those were the only actors in the movie. No, that's not true. I was thinking about how whenever Sabu was on a scene talking to somebody, I felt like he was the best actor. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just because he is charismatic, but say that the girl that he's all trying to, or that she's trying to hook up with him or something like that.
Yeah.
And they don't really have a relationship except for she's curious about him. But she didn't seem like a very good actress. And then his mother was acting like she was on stage. Like, "Oh, Mowgli, what, something.
I think she was told the title of the movie was going to be Mowgli's Mother.
That's great.
She told him it was the story of Moses or something like that. And he was like, oh, my son has returned. The Christ child.
I didn't care about that. I didn't care about, like, him at odds with the man world, really. But I found it super entertaining just to watch the way it looked visually. But, yeah, what you're saying, the actors didn't really bring it as hard as he did. And I would hate to think that there was some kind of, like, race issue among the actors. But if that were a factor, that would be terrible.
Hopefully there wasn't.
Yeah, because he was really amazing, you know?
I don't think we can ever find out because this movie is one of those movies that the rights to it just went into oblivion, so you could watch the entire thing on YouTube. So I don't think there's ever going to be a super duper special edition unless it's just like critics talking about, important things.
Got it.
So we won't ever get somebody talking about the behind the scenes stuff or anything like that. I mean, how often do people like to talk about race relations when it comes to older movies anyways? I wonder about that.
I guess you really don't hear much about that. Yeah. Huh. I wonder about that, too.
Yeah. I mean, did all those Goonies treat Short Round really badly? That's what I really wanted. No, that's not what I want to know. What was I going to say about stuff? Oh, I was going to say, I did find the human, Mowgli being in the human village, interacting with them, interesting because, he kept pointing out things that seemed kind of ridiculous to him about how, like, well, why would you need to do that? I mean, all you need to do is do this to survive. Or, what do you mean he hunts animals for sport? I mean, there's a really funny scene where he sees the hunter's bearskin rug, and he's like, that's Baloo's cousin. I've been fishing with him. Like, why would I shoot him? And it's like, yeah. I mean, what are you proving? That you are stronger? You're not proving you're stronger than an animal by shooting it with a gun. It's a complicated issue for a lot of people, and I don't want to say that people shouldn't hunt or anything like that, but I do think the idea of killing animals just for sport is wrong. But, I'm one of those libtards, so
Well, no, hold on. I mean, you make really good points, though. I mean, I feel that hunting should only be, for extreme need, I know that there are several families, even in the United States, that rely on that, that the hunting time to go get deer and things of that nature, in certain parts of the states. But, I just feel that I wish dentists would, stay where they are, man, There's no need. Anyways.
Endangered species, it's like, don't kill those just to what?
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
I almost don't even want to talk about it. It's so ridiculous.
That's fine.
It's so ridiculous.
Too far into it because it's a really heavy issue. Let's suffice it to say we all agree that you shouldn't kill animals that are already on their way out.
I nod my head in approval.
Yes.
But something else though, going back to the film, that I really enjoyed were the sets in this film. Like, holy crap, man. Like, some of those sets were just so amazing, and like, yes, you could tell that it was a set in some parts, but just the amount of detail
it didn't matter.
Put into all these things, like the ancient city, like the paintings in the background, the plants in the foreground, like, it did feel like it was a jungle.
I feel like seeing this on the big screen would be so amazing. I mean, you are transported to this thing because of the beautiful Technicolor and the beautiful painted backdrops and the physical sets that they had to have built. They didn't go to some Indian village, I guarantee it. They went, it's on some backlot somewhere, but somebody meticulously made sure to make it feel like, yes, this is the middle of the jungle and there are dangerous things all over the place. There are crocodiles, or this was an ancient city, and look at these statues that aren't actually there. I mean, it doesn't matter. It was like, wow.
Yeah,
That's
man.
my rating. Put it on the poster. Joel Torres says, "Wow." That's with 16 H's.
I hope that each billboard has a small button so it can get that same sound when you press it.
Yeah, it'd be worse than that Oogie Loves billboard I saw that had a button on the side. Let's not talk about the Oogie Loves. Okay. Yeah. Sets? What do you think?
I thought that the sets were really great too. The painted parts, and they sort of included some vines here and there to make it look real, which kind of reminded me of when we were in high school theater production of Midsummer Night's Dream, and we had to come up with all this bizarre stuff for our sets. I remember having these like weird things we were trying to turn into some kind of forest-like atmosphere. But yeah, I really liked the background. It reminded me of for some reason it reminded me of that Audrey Hepburn movie that I can't remember the title of.
Start going through Audrey Hepburn movies. Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Green Mansions.
Green Mansions. That would have been my second guess. I've never heard of that movie.
Yeah, I never heard of it either.
Yeah, I think she lives in the woods in that too.
Huh.
I can't remember. I saw it with my mom or my grandma a while ago, but the background reminded me of the background in that.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And I think the movie was just so fun. I mean, you felt like everybody that was a part of the movie must have been having a blast, like riding that snake around.
Oh man, that was beautiful.
And,
that was such a beautiful scene.
I know.
Right?
I'm like, they really pulled that off.
Well, it was like it's just this weird like moment where it's like reality is questionable, like seeing that snake move.
Yeah.
It just you were like you were so like thrown into the film at that point where you're like, oh yeah, he's really riding that snake. Like, I had that moment,
Yeah,
you know, where I was
looked
like, that's his friend. They made an alliance.
He's riding
on the back of
something.
it,
Yeah,
you know?
he's riding it. Yeah, he's
Like,
riding
that totally
the snake.
that was a moment where I was in the film and I was there. Like, it was weird.
I did like the part where the bad guys were trying to steal the treasure.
Yeah.
And the ridiculous, like, attitude they had about, just going crazy over the jewels. And
Sometimes you get that gold fever, and the only cure is more gold.
I do like that the story in, like, all incarnations, I think, is sort of talking about the wisdom of animals and nature, and that and that men can learn something from that, that they're blinded by greed and all of this. But the part with the ruby and the guy killing the other guy over it was
good.
funny.
It was pretty dark.
So good though.
I mean, it was great, yeah, but it was like, oh man, that guy got murdered.
It was kind of like the ring, like a Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, totally.
My Precious.
Very Tolkien.
Yeah, yeah.
Very Tolkien. Yeah.
I don't know when
amazing.
Tolkien wrote that.
He wrote it yesterday. I don't know. Aaron, you're a nerd. Tell me. Ow! My cat just bit my butt.
He's got the wisdom of the animals.
Yeah. Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings around World War II.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he wrote it right around that era.
So it would have been around when this
fact,
movie was made.
Yeah, in fact, Lord of the Rings actually wasn't published until after the war.
Oh,
Yeah.
crazy.
I think.
Now that Hitler's
Pretty sure I read
dead,
about
I'm
that.
going to publish my fantasy novel.
There you go.
Yeah. It's a pretty good imitation of Tolkien there.
I thought so too.
Mm-hmm.
Needed a little more Hobbit pipeweed though. I'm sure somewhere.
Old
Something.
Toby. The finest weed in the Shire.
It did seem to me, though, that, like, Mowgli was going to and from the man village, and then to, like, this one corner of the jungle.
Yeah.
Like, except for that part where he took the girl, like, through the different spots.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it seemed like there was one main background that they used for a lot of the stuff, and then there was, like, the river part. But it was awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't even care
There
that it
was,
seemed like there was a...
Seemed like there were at least like 15 different set type areas, and most of them were jungle. like 5 in the man village, and then like 2 in the ancient city, or maybe 3, and then the rest were all jungle.
And animals running around in water on set in some studio?
That's great.
Yeah, I was like, this is
Yeah.
crazy.
I think my favorite thing that you actually mentioned, Joel, was the scene where the 3 thieves are making their way back to the city, and then occasionally you would just see like an animal very quizzically like staring at them, or like not in the scene,
like
just it would cut to like a monkey in a tree just looking
Reaction
left,
shot.
looking right, and then like a wolf like looking left, looking right, like. And I have to, and then out of nowhere, just like someone on a keyboard just hitting random animal effect. That was amazing.
Elephant.
Yeah.
That guy was just already at the end of his rope trying to leave the jungle, and every time he was talking, there were tons of animal sounds, but every time he started talking, the animals would quiet. And then immediately he'd pop up after he was done talking, and then he'd say something else, they'd be quiet. And then they'd immediately pop up again. Those animals are very respectful.
Yeah, and in the beginning of the story, you see the narrator telling about this thing that happened in the past.
I forgot all about the bookend, yeah.
And then you see him being pretty bad through the whole movie, pretty selfish, pretty greedy. And then in the end, he's just sort of like, and that's how it happened. And you're like thinking, is he wise now? Like, has he had a realization since then?
Yeah.
Or is he just still the same greedy old guy, like, narrating? I don't know.
He got his turban back.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to see if he learned any lessons about what occurred, because he's mostly just like the vocal piece of the story. Pretty much just validating the fact that he survived. Pretty much,
And
I wish
to tell the tale. Yeah.
basically, I kind of wish that there would been a little bit more of a moral compass to it, but really what it comes down to is Sabu's acting with with Mowgli was just the best.
It was.
It really was.
I feel like I could watch him do 5 more movies.
And what other film was he in? I really want to see that. What
It's
was
a
it?
Black Narcissus, but he doesn't
Black-
have a... I mean, he has a pretty decent role in it.
Oh, cool.
I saw a bunch of other things on IMDb, but none of the stuff I've ever heard of.
Okay.
Black Narcissus is cool because that's a Powell and Pressburger. No. It's Powell. It's a really good movie.
Cool.
It's about the nuns, right?
Yes. That is correct. The nuns that are also in India. And trying to hold their convent together.
That's right.
And things are getting kind of weird.
Cool.
And then there's a roller coaster. Whee! No, that doesn't happen. There were a couple of other things I wanted to touch on before I go crazy.
Okay.
I really liked the animals, the fake animals. We already talked about the giant snake, but I really liked Mechano Crocodile.
Oh, I totally forgot about Mechano Crocodile.
Yeah.
Oh man, that guy was a star, man.
Another animal that they did not want to mess around with. There was just him slowly approaching people in the water, and Mowgli is like, "Hey, get away from me."
When you first see him, you can almost hear the onboard motor just kind of running in him, as he kind of goes slowly towards you.
Disneyland Jungle Cruise. Yeah.
Yeah, they should have had a giant croc. I always remember them shooting at the hippos in the Jungle Cruise. I mean, hippos are dangerous. Don't listen, audience. If you see a hippo, don't approach it. They are very dangerous. Okay, back to the program. Yeah.
Hippo warning.
Mechano Croc was one. And there's a scene where Mowgli is in the tree and he's talking to Bagheera, the panther. Or no, he's not. That's not what's happening. What's happening is crazy hunter guy has Mowgli like on the ground, pinned on the ground, and is like about to finish him off or shoot him or something. And Bagheera decides, I gotta take this. And he jumps. You see the cat jump out of the tree. But then you see a kind of a wide shot of the man suddenly get a huge stuffed cat thrown at his head. And it's, there was no other way to do the shot. But it's fantastic.
We just cracked up at that part.
Awesome.
It was
so awesome.
Perfect. It's the kind of thing that people make fake movies about now, trying to make fun of, but it doesn't matter in this movie. It's just it's too good.
They just make such a fun and interesting atmosphere for you, the viewer, to watch. Like, the way the jungle just works. And, like Sarah mentioned, it does kind of feel like you're only seeing, like, one portion of the jungle most of the time. But, you just get this really fun and very entertaining feel from it. And I just wish I could see more movies with, like, cutaways to animals just looking left and looking right. I think that really made my night.
You just need a YouTube reaction shot, animal reaction shot montage.
That's really what I... Okay.
I guarantee
the animal reaction.
All right. Well, I just need that. Yeah.
The dog double take.
It was pretty good to see the animals reacting.
I liked it. It made a whole sense of, like, just... It was just really well done.
That part where Mowgli is showing the girl that he can talk to the animals, so he talks to the monkey that's in the village. He just keep going back to like 2 minutes of him chattering. Oh, he said he doesn't like you. No, I don't like you either. Okay, sorry. Dr. Abazan.
I don't even know really what Technicolor is.
It is you just asked me a difficult question.
Is it cell painting or?
I mean, it's not.
Or it wasn't filmed in color, right? It's after processing?
I don't know now. Hold on, we're taking a little break, although we're still recording. Technicolor is a color motion picture process invented in 1916 and then improved over several decades. It was the second major color process after Britain's Cinemacolor and the most widely used color process in Hollywood from 1922 to 1915. Technicolor became known as celebrated and blah blah blah. Saturated color levels. Yeah, that's amazing stuff. Okay, so what actually happens? Technicolor originally existed in two colors, red and green system. Process 1, a prism beam splitter behind the camera lens exposed two consecutive frames of a single strip of black and white negative film simultaneously. One behind a red filter and the other behind a green filter. Because two frames were being exposed at the same time, the film had to be photographed and projected at twice the normal speed. That's cool. You know about film. Convinced that there was no future in additive color processes, Comstock, Westcott, and Kalmus focused their attention on subtractive color processes. This culminated in what would eventually be known as Process 2. As before, the special Technicolor camera used a beam splitter that simultaneously exposed the two frames to a single strip of black and white film, one behind a green filter, one behind a red. The difference was that two component negatives was now used to produce a subtractive color print. Because the colors were physically present in the print, no special projection equipment was required, and the correct registration of the two images did not depend on the skill of the projectionist. That's really cool. So, yeah. Sounds like it was cameras almost, right? Like the film equipment itself.
Yep.
I know...
The film itself was sensitive to begin with, and then they ran both spools simultaneously to get the effect.
That is cool. I don't know. You would know. You explained it all to me. I know that on the sets of any movie that had Technicolor, was using the Technicolor technology, that they had to have a special person there that was representing Technicolor that would, before a scene was filmed, made sure that there were enough colors for them.
Because they probably wouldn't register if there weren't enough.
Right. And plus, they wanted, they always wanted it to be, Technicolor, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And
So-
they did a fine job.
The colors
did.
might have been very different in real life.
Yeah.
Technicolor
I don't
was
know.
amazing.
Yeah.
I was thinking that in the movie, we keep having shots of the villages, and, each of those guys have different colored turbans, and it's like, would that actually be the case?
No, probably not.
I don't think so. I think the person, the technical
Personal
person
preference.
was like, hey, I think we could add some more
It's
here.
kind of, little pirates of the, like we were saying, Disneyland version of India, not maybe real life India.
Are you saying India is not actually like that?
I'm sure there's a lot of
I don't
white
know.
people running around with
I've
brown
never-
face in
White
India, I'm
people
sure.
in brown face.
In
I'm
India.
sure.
Oh
I'm
my
sure.
That's
god.
great. Yeah. We only got one white brown person, and that's Ben Kingsley, who is actually Indian. But I thought he was white, so I'm a bad person. Just to let everybody know. Now, what was I going to say? Speaking of costumes, I feel like we're in a unique position to have you there because you do notice the way people are dressed in these kind of movies. Did anything stand out to you, Sarah?
They definitely had someone buy a lot of authentic Indian textiles and saris for the ladies and for the man village or whatever. You could tell somebody was probably given a budget of some sum of money to go to India or someplace where they could acquire it back then and get all these different saris and rugs and things like that because they were traditionally Indian clothes. But the men's clothes, there seem to be some exaggerated things in their costuming. I don't know for sure that much about men's Indian clothing from back then. But I would say that, some of their stuff was a little over the top. Their turbans and stuff, like you were saying. And some of the jewelry and the jewels and stuff were over the top too, but that was to be expected because you wanted it to show up in the movie of how big they were and all of that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but I did notice that the white women, were wearing saris, and that they were the real deal,
Cool.
like the one my friend brought me back from India.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, since this was our first fantasy movie, I think we've already basically talked about how this movie is fantasy with the whole animal talking part
Sure.
like that. But when you think of the word fantasy and associate it with movie, what do you think of? Because I'll tell you, Jungle Book was not anything that came into my mind.
When I think fantasy, Joel, I actually think of the movie Krull, like immediately. That is the first fantasy film that I think of.
That's a mix of two, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah, I
because
guess it does
it's
have
got
some
the space mountain spaceship.
You're right.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. That's the first thing that pops up. And then secondarily, Lady Hawk is the other one that really pops up in my head.
Fantasy movie or fantasy story?
In general, whatever. I mean, when you think of a fantasy movie, or yeah.
First thing that came into my head was a dragon.
Oh, that's cool.
And the second
Dragonheart.
thing was like the...
Dragonheart.
Yeah, no, not dragon.
Not Dragonheart.
Just
Dragon
a
Ball
dragon.
Z.
Dragon Ball
Like the old drawings
Yeah.
of dragons you'd see in kids' books as
Yeah.
a kid, and like those kind of
That's
fantasy medieval pictures
Awesome.
and stuff.
Pete's
Castles.
Dragon.
Yeah, I usually think of it a long time ago
Right.
when I think about fantasy.
Okay, so not Pete's Dragon. We're talking like King Arthur.
Yeah, did King Arthur have a dragon?
No. I don't think so.
What about the Sword in the Stone? Was that there was magic in that?
In the cartoon, when they're having the awesome wizard battle, she turns
That's
into
right.
a pink dragon, or is it a purple dragon?
Or like
Madame
Sleeping
Mim?
Beauty, the Disney
Oh yeah,
cartoon
Sleeping Beauty. Definitely, yeah.
Mad Madam Mim.
Yeah.
I loved that movie.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the Last Dragon, which is that movie, that blaxploitation kung
Bruce.
fu movie.
Leroy.
Who was the master?
Are you talking about the Shogun?
Yes.
Watch out for the Shogun, man.
Ah.
Gotta mess you up.
Who runs Barter? No. Dragons fantasy. See, yes, that is also
Dragons,
what I think
yeah.
of. I think of fairies. I think of that kind of stuff like that. I think of legend.
Legend. Yeah.
There you go.
But
I
Jungle
just
Book.
picked that up on DVD.
What? Oh, that's right. You don't have modern technology.
No, I've got internets.
Yeah.
I've got internets. It's just Legend is a close one to my heart, so I wanted to make sure that if the Dark Ages come in which the internet dies and robots are looking to kill us, that I can just power up a generator and watch that film one more time before the robots eat me.
Did we watch that together?
Legend.
We did watch it together,
Yeah.
but I've seen it prior to us
Well,
watching.
that was the first time I'd ever seen it.
Oh, cool.
It was,
Cool.
You know, really very enjoyable.
Yeah, Legend's amazing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Ridley Scott. I picked up the edition. Actually, another reason why I picked up it on DVD recently is because I picked up the one that has the Ridley Scott director's cut as well.
Oh.
So there's a whole entire different cut of the film that I had not seen yet.
Cool.
So that's
He
exciting.
does that a lot.
Well,
Like, I mean, are people really wresting the control from Ridley Scott and being like, no, you can't put the good stuff
Maybe
in
he's
this
just
movie?
saying it could have happened another way.
I guess. But he already, I mean,
well, yeah, Blade Runner.
yes, Blade
yeah.
Runner, obviously, and other stuff, I'm sure. I don't know about
He mentioned
Kingdom of Heaven.
there was a small piece of paper in the DVD box, and it said that he was having difficulty finding an audience for the film. And so it sounded like they changed the score of the film from Tangerine Dream, which became what the film was. And apparently there was another composer who had a soundtrack that they had removed.
Was it Toto?
No, but that would have been amazing.
Yes.
Toto should definitely do a
I
fantasy
know.
film.
Tangerine Dream. Oh, they did. I mean, well, I guess it's a sci-fi film.
Which one?
Dune.
Oh, Toto did the soundtrack for Dune?
Oh my gosh, Aaron, I have such stories to tell you.
That's exciting. I love that movie.
We're running pretty long.
Dune's fantasy, right?
Yeah,
That's
Sci-fi.
fantasy and sci-fi.
Sci-fi,
Yeah,
yeah.
great film.
But another thing that occurred to me
Oh,
was
please.
that when I think of fantasy, I think of girls with like dresses that have puffy sleeves. And that made me think of Labyrinth, which was
Awesome.
probably my favorite fantasy as a kid.
Awesome.
Excellent
David
choice.
Bowie in the
Excellent.
tight pants.
That's right.
David
That's
Bowie's tight
fantasy.
pants. Yep, that is fantasy. You're right. I can't think of anything
David
more.
Bowie, Ziggy Stardust.
How
With that
many-
hairdo.
How many other movies have that much raw sexuality and then a series of fart jokes?
None.
Yes.
0. That's it. There's
You see
only
it
one.
as raw sexuality?
What? David Bowie? You're right. He's probably impacted and mixed with other chemicals.
What?
I don't know. Anyways, we're running kind of long.
Okay.
All right.
So, rather than try to get the randomizer to work again, because
Well, it needs some work.
there's something wrong with it, it started talking to me.
Yeah, we should probably put that in a cardboard box and try not to feed it after midnight
Yeah.
until we figure out what's going on with it.
It's okay. We'll get the kinks worked out. Anyways,
Good.
So we're doing another person choice here, but we don't have a random. Wait, we do have a random DVD. Sarah, what do you want to watch?
Oh, it's my pick, and I was gonna pick Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Ah, an excellent fantasy movie. Wait, science fiction movie.
Excellent.
I mean, that is one of our favorite movies.
Yeah.
My
Yes.
mom would have said this isn't sci-fi.
Yes, like
Like Back to the Future isn't sci-fi. Yeah, my mom, it's like a running joke that my mom has said Back to the Future wasn't sci-fi.
But it is sci-fi.
She sees it as a comedy and like
Oh.
a silly kind of thing, and it's like, yeah, it is, but you can't go back to the future.
But there are elements in it. Yeah, a time machine itself is a science fiction object.
Yeah.
I don't have a time machine right now.
I mean, genres are meaningless anyways. They're just labels, and labels are mostly meaningless. But, you know, it's fun. It's fun to stick things on there anyways to try to figure out, like, oh, you like science fiction. Maybe you haven't actually heard of this before. But Back to the Future is sci-fi. They time travel.
Yeah, well, you know.
Okay.
But I understand, though, it doesn't have a Vulcan in it, so I can understand what she's trying to get at. There are no aliens in Back to the Future.
It has a Klingon in it.
No, there isn't.
Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, you're right.
In The Search for Spock.
But is there a
Klingon.
single Vulcan in there, though?
Okay, fine. I don't know. I haven't watched enough Star Trek to be able to determine that. Anyway, so next week we'll be watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and if it's going to be a gush fest. I'm just warning you now.
Yeah, I know that we're biased because we were at the right age at the right time when this movie came out, and me and Joel practically already have it memorized, but I'm hoping to look at it from another perspective because of the podcast.
I definitely remember seeing this one in the theater. So yeah, this is definitely going to be one that... It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Okay. All right, before we close off here, something that I keep forgetting to do, we're going to get this over with right now. If you wanted to follow us on Twitter, which we do have Twitter, our Twitter handle is Outer Space Pod. At Outer Space Pod. There is only one tweet on there right now, but this is several episodes later, so by then, hopefully, there will be a bunch more. If you want to follow us individually, I'm at JDT Movies. Aaron?
I'm at Hyper Hero Man.
And Sarah is a very private person, so we're not going to tell you what she does.
She's on the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have any suggestions, if you have any comments, if you have any money you want to send me, please send it to pleasedon'tpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that is not an ironic name. Stop telling me that. pleasedon'tpodcast@gmail.com. So until next week, when we watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, excellent.
Excellent.
Be excellent to each other.
Party on, crudes. Dudes. My name is Joel.
Bye, Joel. My name's Aaron.
Bye. I'm Sarah.
So crates.
Sometimes a cigar is just
Hello.
I'm going hunting. I'm the hunter. I'll bring back the goods, but I don't know when.
Tech.
We'll sit out where...
Wait, which one? Mortal Kombat or the other one?
They play like every dancey song that sounded like that. It was like that one, and
I wonder if the Blade song ever came up.
there was this one that was like they just have random English phrases.
They do that. They do that now in Europe. I mean, that's just normal. It's time for sex with strangers. No, I don't care what you're saying to me. Techno song. Wow. That one from Swimming Pool is good. Let's do it. That's all it says.
I made Joel listen to Aqua recently.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, looks good. Got the meters going.
Come on, let's go get it on.
That's good.
Come on, Barbie. Let's go party.
Yeah, that's all just great.
Hanky panky.
Who would find that other... You got the girl singing, and then somebody comes in and is like...
They all do that, too. They all have a guy that...
You girls want to sleep with me? Hanky panky. Nobody calls me.